Turn right, then destination.
It's a big hole at the end of the road, you can't miss it.
Left this town 1,000 strong. The crowds came out.
So here we are. This is the Westfield War Memorial Village, and it was built after the First World War by philanthropists for veterans coming back from the war who'd been disabled as a result of the fighting.
My friends was worse than hell. I saw some things wouldn't be right to tell.
The guy who designed it, a guy called Thomas H. Mawson, was a landscape architect and town planner who was really into like the garden city movement and the idea of a variety of houses and lots of nature and the healing properties of nature.
Won't you lay down?
Mawson came up with the idea of these settlements because he'd lost his own son in the war, and his son had written a letter home saying, "Do all that you can for the wounded, the bravery is incredible."
Won't you lay down with me? Won't you lay...
And Mawson teamed up with a family of philanthropists, the Story family, and this land is all part of their former estate.
He's trying to back up.
There's now over 100 properties on here, and it's still principally inhabited by ex-servicemen, some of them disabled, some of them who've been necessitous. So it fulfills the same principal role that it was set up for nearly 100 years ago.
Spare a thought, but the boy's still there. The resting place for the pride of Lancashire.
I mean, had you heard of the Westfield Village before?
I'd not heard of it until you sort of started doing some work there, and then you've been talking about it because you was really enthused about how interesting it was, and then we went there, and I think what was really good, and I can understand why you were so enthused, is it was living history. It was like, even though there was no one still alive that was injured in the First World War, there were people living there who knew them.
I mean, this is like you say, these are people who've been the neighbours of these people, and I mean, that one that really struck me was the one that someone was telling us about a guy called Herbert Billington, and he was like, he'd nearly been like shorn in half by a German shell, and then left out on the battlefield by his comrades, and the Germans had come along in an attack and picked him up, took him behind their lines, patched him up, saved his life, and sent him home again. And so this bizarre situation where his injuries have been caused by the Germans, but then they've saved his life, and as a result of it, he'd never hear a bad word said about a German. It's just a bizarre story, isn't it? You know. What about playing to the audience that we were playing to? You know what I mean?
Well, that was the interesting fact of that show, I think, because, you know, singing about the war and the other audiences we were performing to in the other places. Here, you're playing to people who had direct connection with conflict, with war, had relatives. So you're singing and telling them stories about them. You know,
Yeah,
how
they lived through it,
how they're going to react to that. You know, they're going to get it. Are they going to connect with that? but it seemed to work.
Oh yeah, they loved it.
Yeah.
They loved it. Absolutely loved it, and you know, it's like you say, you don't know. You're nervous about it. In a way, I was more nervous about that show than some of the others because of that fact that these are people who fought in wars, and we're going to go and start telling them about war.
Yeah.
Oh postman, why you weeping? Why you weeping? Why you weeping? Oh postman, why you weeping on this fine summer's day? Tell me why you're crying, why you're crying, why you're crying. Oh tell me why you're crying, is it bad news today? I'm just a boy who wanted to fight, who wanted to do what's right. They said I was too young to find myself dead, so they gave me this uniform instead. Oh man.
What strikes me about this place, the Westfield War Memorial Village, is how many interesting stories it's got to tell about forgotten aspects of the First World War. Not least, obviously, disability, but also the role of charity and philanthropy, which must be one of the great untold stories of the war. Because we know that during the First World War, the number of charities on these isles doubled as a result of people rushing to do their bit on home shores to help families who were needy because maybe the main breadwinner had gone away or even died, and to support the servicemen as well on foreign shores, and then obviously to support the men, like the people who came to live on here, the men who'd been permanently scarred physically as well as psychologically by the conflict.
Won't you lay down? Won't you lay down with me?
This is Hilda Lale, a woman who played a huge part in transforming the history of fundraising and charitable works in this country. She came up with the idea of a golden ballot, a kind of forerunner to the National Lottery. And she held one of the ballots to raise money to build houses on this settlement. And as a result of the ballot, she was arrested under the Betting and Gaming Acts for running an illegal lottery. And she went to the courts in London, asked for trial by jury, and she won. And as a result of that, the laws for fundraising in this country were to be changed forever. Hilda Lale, one of the amazing women of Westfield.
I've been really interested in the role of women on Westfield because obviously I've met a lot of the women and we've talked to them and we've discussed some of the problems that, you know, they've had to deal with after some of the, you know, the wars and conflicts. Unfortunately, men have struggled and the health service wasn't what it is today, and they didn't have the help for all the stress and the mental issues that were caused. And the women are the ones who've taken, you know, the brunt of that, and they're the ones who've had to support the men. They've had to deal with things such as alcoholism. They've had people having nightmares. It's been quite tough for the women, but they've proved to be really strong, and they had a good network. The men would meet up as men and they would discuss their issues, but the women also, you know, met and they shared their concerns and how to deal with things too. So I think it's been a really important thing on the village.
Oh Mary, why you weeping? Why you weeping? Why you weeping? Oh Mary, why you weeping on this fine summer's day? Tell me why you're crying, why you're crying, why you're crying. Oh, tell me why you're crying as your love gone away. He's been off to war for 6 months or more, and now I just
And recce patrols, did quite a lot of recce patrols. But a recce patrol was just one NCO and a Kingsman as they were called. And actually my best mate, Jack, who had done basic training and been in Egypt, he was killed on a recce patrol, walked into an ambush. Poor old Jack.
What's it like living on the village?
It's super. Couldn't wish for better. It's lovely and quiet, nice people. It's a lovely place, nice community centre, plenty going on. It's great. And I play balls for the team as well.
Won't you lay down with me? Won't you lay down by the shore and Gallipoli? Gallipoli, Gallipoli, Gallipoli.
Well, it went down really well, didn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it did.
He was brilliant.
That was completely like giving up the ghost.
I had quite a lot of them coming over, you know, because I went out to get an orange juice at the
Yeah.
end. Coming over, but as they was going out, you know, or like shaking my hands or thanking me and how good it
Yeah, I
was
did
and what
enjoy
bits.
it. This is a tower built to commemorate Sir Robert Peel, twice the Prime Minister of this country, and he was the founder of the Metropolitan Police Force. But we're not here because of him, we're here because of this landscape. Because beneath us is a community called Holcombe. In late September 1916, German Zeppelin came over the east coast from Lincolnshire, across Yorkshire and into Lancashire, and followed down the Rossendale Valley, bombing along the way. And it dropped a series of bombs on the community below us.
Soldiers were walking down by the banks.
It's a wonderful spot to stage this show above the village of Holcombe that suffered in that attack.
And listen to them talking.
So, well, the thing about playing up on the moor was that there's a big hole in the ground up there on the top of the moor near the tower itself. You got a brilliant overview of the whole of the Zeppelin raid up the valley, and local folklore had always been that this big crater, which was like this natural amphitheatre to play in, had actually been created by one of the bombs from the attack. The reality was that it wasn't, was it? It actually is an old stone quarry, but it was a perfect place to perform in an amazing spot. In actual fact, about a mile down the road, there is a crater from the Zeppelin attack, and it's funny, we went up to see it, didn't
Well,
we?
if you weren't taken there and pointed it out and stood in it, I don't think you'd know it was a crater. You couldn't tell.
No, it was like it was tiny. Let's put it like this: there is no way you'd be staging a show in it, is there?
No.
But I mean, it was perfect up on the top of the hill because it was a great venue. You've got this wonderful view of the whole of the attack, and then this natural amphitheatre as well.
It's a big hole at the end of the road, can't we see?
I'd said to people previously who come to see us all the time, they was a bit worried about getting up the hill, and I said, oh, don't go up the way we went, the steep way, go the long way around, it's really easy. But then we went the long way around and I still struggled, so I'm glad they didn't come in there.
But the weather as well the night before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bouncing.
Yeah.
It was bad.
And we thought, oh no. But it was perfect in the end, the weather, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, driving up and seeing a bit of sunshine was a bit of a relief.
You
to
say that.
sunshine up there.
Yeah.
Because we'd have had to play it anyway. So.
The harps here. Excellent.
Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see so many of you, actually. Further ado, this is a song about the forgotten men of First World War. Soldiers were walking down by the banks of the bay. So I fell in and listened to them talking. What I think is interesting about this is it's a different narrative about the First World War. Is that everybody talks about the start of the war and people rushing off in like this fervour of excitement and sense of adventure and it all being that they didn't know what they were letting themselves in for and they couldn't see beyond that it was mates getting the chance to go away and fight. And there's a lot of truth in that, but it's not the whole story. And I think things like these Zeppelin attacks are in many ways the other side of the story, because these were the first aerial attacks that had ever taken place. If anything was going to hurt us, it was going to hurt us from the sea. But we had the greatest navy in the world, or so we felt. And suddenly here we were, vulnerable, airships, and they spread terror. And I think that there was a lot of people with the air attacks who genuinely felt that our homes are under threat, our way of life is under threat.
It is harder to do one's duty to suffering and to serve and to live or die.
From the banks of the willow to the banks of the Somme, out of the darkness, back into the sun. Well, who will remember those proud survivors' songs? And who will sing them now? The Zeppelin circled round here before heading over to Bolton, where 13 people were killed, men, women and children and more were injured, before the Zeppelin headed back and across the North Sea. At Holcombe itself, there was one major fatality, a song thrush, which the people of the community actually stuffed. I suppose in some ways a bit of a two fingers up to the attack to say, "Ha, look, this is all that you did to us."
That was Tommy's way.
Oh, the moon shines bright on Charlie Chaplin. His bits are cracking for the one that blacking, and his old grey coats in need of mending until they send him to the Dardan Downs. Oh, the moon shines bright on Charlie Chaplin. His bits are cracking for the one that blacking, and his old grey coats in need of mending until they send him to the Dardan Downs. Thank you ever so much. Thank you. Have a safe walk down. Beware of our Land Rover coming up. And please, we've got some rubbish bags as well, so please don't leave any litter. We'd like to leave as small a footprint as we can.
But all was well at anyway, because it ended up, it was amazing, wasn't it? 400 people, didn't they, climbed up that hill to watch the performance. You can see it like almost on a daily basis and think, we actually pulled that off. That was a pretty, well, they still buzz about it now, you know. That was just quality, it was just brilliant.
It was a mad gig. It was really good.
Alright, jump up again.
Simon Hoban.
BBC Radio Merseyside.
26 minutes past 7. Now, when we remember the First World War, we perhaps quite rightly tend to focus on the servicemen and women who fell on the battlefield. Now, what's usually less focused on, though, are the lives of those who returned from war as changed people and those who refused to take up arms in the first place. Well, today at Walton Prison, there's a very special concert going on to bring more attention to the less heard everyday stories of Britons in wartime. We can speak to Martin Purdy, who's the musician behind the concert, and is with us now. Hi to you, Martin.
Hello there, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Cheers for joining us this morning. Tell us about this concert then.
Yeah, it's an unusual one. We're doing a series of concerts at the moment with the folk band Harp and a Monkey in unusual places relating to the First World War on home shores. And today we're playing in Walton prison because Walton was one of the big prisons around Britain that housed conscientious objectors in the First World War. So we're filming a documentary around these shows, and the show at Walton gives us the chance to discuss different types of bravery, because obviously we're all familiar with the kind of bravery involved in fighting in a war. But there was also, it took a lot of bravery to stand up for what you believed in, sort of on religious or political grounds as well.
I hear the sound of guns like thunder at
How did we take the prison?
Well, do you remember, we were actually sat, we were struggling to find a suitable venue in Merseyside. Not because it didn't have great stories, but we just couldn't find anywhere to stage a show, couldn't we? Yeah. So then we came across the story about the prison and the conscientious objectors.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, okay, every musician knows the Johnny Cash sort of, that thing about Johnny Cash and this romantic, and I think we perhaps had this romantic vision of like, okay. The reality was no, they
weren't dancing on tables in a dining hall.
I mean, it was a great show, but it was pretty intimidating, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. It was.
I mean, we didn't think they'd let us play there, did we?
No. It was quite surprising that they were one of the best to sort of like, we'll make this happen, we'll get it going, and we were quite, God, we're gonna have to go through with it. And I mean, it was. I mean, life's all about experiences, and that is one that we're not going to forget in a hurry, isn't it?
You play in a prison, and it's just like any other venue. You go up 48 flights of stairs with all your gear, right at the top of the chapel.
Well, I was sat there when we were about to start. I was looking around, and there was 30 prisoners, 3 of us, 2 prison guards, and everywhere had been locked.
And you suddenly think, right, they better like this show, or we're in big trouble here. How good's an accordion as a weapon?
It was good at the end though, because there was the side that were really into it, and he was really buzzing for it all the way through. But then, like, at the end, where are you playing next, lads? Responsible for a prison break.
This is Fenner Brockway, perhaps the most famous or even infamous of conscientious objectors to have been housed in the old Walton jail. Fenner was a complete objector, and that meant he wouldn't do anything at all to aid the war effort. He led a revolt in Walton against the rule of silence that had been imposed on the objectors. They weren't supposed to speak or be spoken to. He fought it and was suitably punished. Fenner would go on to become a pillar of political and humanist life, a long-standing Labour MP and a peer. the anti-establishment man at the heart of the establishment.
I don't want to go where the soldiers go. I don't want to go.
Because I mentioned earlier that those who objected conscientiously to the war were ostracised, really, weren't they, by society and, you know, and the military and whoever you want to talk about, really. They were totally reviled.
They were, yes. I mean, particularly, the First World War was the first time that there was really an issue to do with conscience. And what the people who were the conscientious objectors in the First World War did was they sort of, as you say, they were reviled. Their families had a terrible time after the war. When they got out of prison, a lot of them struggled to find work. They were shunned. But what they did was they sort of raised the whole issue so that by the time of the Second World War, there was a very different attitude towards conscientious objectors, so that they'd broken ground in a way, that they'd sort of, you know, opened the door to this moral discussion.
I don't want to go where the soldiers go. I don't want to go. I don't want to know why they march.
I had a brother who was a conscientious objector. I was only a child at the time. I was only born in 1930, so I could have been about 9 or 10 years old at the time. And he had to register for army service, but his boss was my dad. And my dad didn't know. He knew that he would be registering as a conscientious objector because he was a Jehovah's Witness. And he knew he would be, but he went to work after lunch, and there in the book in the office was a note from my brother saying, I should have gone to register today, but I've not done so. I was told to inform my employer, and I am informing you now. My dad was very, very hurt by this, that he hadn't spoken to him about it, but he knew that he was registering as conscientious. I don't know whether the actual registration came first and he was given another chance. I think that's how it worked, I'm not sure. He went to this tribunal, got sentenced to 6 months. He served in both Walton and Strangeways. They transferred him, I think, somewhere through the sentence. He actually served 4 months. He got 2 months off for good behaviour. He wouldn't dare do anything else.
I don't want to know about your fight. I stay.
Martin, it's been fascinating talking to you today, and as you say, a facet of the First World War that we don't perhaps focus on enough. Good luck with that concert today, Martin.
Pleasure, thanks for speaking, having us on.
Not at all, our pleasure.
We have done it.
Okay, comments on the Holcombe Moor show?
Pretty amazing, that.
We're all over by 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It's not bad, is it?
Oh.
Yeah. Lee's just said, like, if you want to come back next year, we'll gladly have you back. So,
Yeah.
as we say, we've never played anywhere and they've not allowed us back. That even includes a prison.
Yeah, cool that.